The Leafs appear to be making moves as all signs are pointing towards Cade Weber looking to sign officially his contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he spoke out saying that he intends to do so. So I'm going to break that down in this episode of Leafs Digest, as well as some injury updates, some scary stuff regarding Mitch Marner, as well as some other things. So stay tuned for all that coming up next. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We're very close to 7,000 subscribers, so if you're not subscribed already, make sure to hit that button. And Darius, some interesting stuff came out today, and let's start with the positives, as the Leafs appear to be making moves. And we made a video about Cade Weber, how he's a very, very good acquisition at the trade deadline, but he was unsigned, and he still technically is. But a report came out today saying that Boston University defenseman Cade Weber says he intends to sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there's some comments I'll get into first, but before I get into that, what are your initial thoughts on this? I mean, we kind of figured that this was going to be the path that it goes down, but it's coming out pretty early that he intends to sign with the Maple Leafs, and he said it himself.
Yeah, I think it's a really good sign, first of all, because there was a lot up in the air that, okay, great, they traded for his rights, basically. But will they be able to sign him? Was this a nothing trade? I feel like that was kind of the pulse on the fan base a little bit, and some, energy towards, oh, this is a good defenseman. We should get him signed. And obviously, they have to sign him before August 15th, but that sounds like it's going to happen. It sounds like they're going to figure out some type of deal. He would become a UFA on August 15th, so they have lots of time to figure that out. In the summer, it's well after free agency and the draft, so they'll probably get it done, which is a really good thing. And there's a few things that stood out to me, some quotes from him. It sounds like he wants to be in Toronto, and I know you have the quotes and whatnot, some things he said, but it sounds like he wants to be in Toronto. He's excited to sign, which is great, because that was a thing that didn't happen for a long time if you're a Leafs fan. And he's excited to come to a team that actually wants him. That's something he said. And I think he's going to come into this with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because the Hurricanes did not end up signing him or using him. So I think that's going to be really powerful for not only him, but for the Leafs too, because they're going to get a player who's really motivated and wanting to make the NHL. He said he wants to be a part of what the Leafs are building the next few years. So I think the plan is to bring him in and see if he can stick at the NHL level like right away. So that's great if you're a Leafs fan.
Yeah, let's get into those comments. He said Weber spoke recently with The Athletic about the trade and revealed he intends to sign his entry-level contract with the Leafs. He said, quote, "That's the plan. I want to get up there, compete, and be part of what's happening there for the next few years," which is what you just said. And it's very good. He wants to be a Leaf, obviously, after the Hurricanes debacle there. And he said, "I was a little bit surprised but excited to be part of an organization that obviously wants me, and the feeling is mutual on the Leafs end," as Brad Treliving told the media shortly after the deadline, as we know, that they want to put pen to paper on, of course, the for signing Cade Weber. And this means that barring any unforeseen circumstances, you can expect the team to get Weber signed soon after he wraps up his college career, before obviously the date, August 15th, that you mentioned. So very, very interesting. I mean, it's a great sign overall. I know there was a lot of comments on our video a few days ago when we were talking about him saying that he isn't signed. The Leafs need to get that done. Will they sign him? It appears that they will, and it makes total sense because they obviously gave up a draft pick for him, so they're going to want to sign him. And he's kind of getting a lot more hype now than he was in the past with other teams. So any final thoughts before we move on to some scary stuff?
Yeah, it's the Leafs tax, right? Like if you get traded to the Leafs, everyone's keeping tabs on you. All of a sudden, you're winning Defensive Defenseman of the Year awards. Not that had anything to do with getting traded to the Leafs. Like he certainly deserved that, but obviously a lot more eyes on him. And yeah, he's a big boy, 6'7", over 200 pounds. I think he's going to help the Leafs definitely in the next couple of years, maybe even next year. Who knows? Because the salary cap isn't going up that much, and the Leafs have a lot of money wrapped up in just a few guys. So we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, exciting. I'm glad there's a mutual interest, and I think he's going to be able to help the Leafs.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to keep track on him for the next coming months, years, however long it takes. But let's get into some injury updates now ahead of the game. And scary injury update from Mitch Marner's front. There's a few things to go over here, and we'll start with, and we'll kind of be focusing on Mitch Marner. So Sheldon Keefe on Mitch Marner missing the team's road trip. Mitch hasn't had any time off. In the long run, as much as we miss him, some time away will be beneficial to him. And basically goes on to say, and I saw this from Sportsnet Ben, and it was on like a radio show saying it's not so much how they look without him, but learning to operate without him. And we've seen some things regarding Austin Matthews, which we'll get into in a second. But the actual official update is that he has a high ankle sprain. It's not coming along the way that they have initially wanted it. Not necessarily a big step back, but he's day to day away from being day to day. And he said, quote, "It hasn't been responding the way they had hoped, so just stepping back with it a little bit," which is not ideal necessarily, because I mean we've seen how Austin Matthews has looked in Mitch Marner's absence, not very good at all. Well, compared to what he usually does, he's still playing fine, but the team hasn't looked great. Power play 0 for there's a lot. They have not scored in a long time, so the team is. I mean, they need Mitch Marner as much as fans like to hate on him sometimes. he's integral to the team and to everyone else, including Austin Matthews.
You nailed it there. I mean, yes, does he make too much money? Probably. Could they use some of the money that he's making somewhere else? Probably, right? But he is still a huge part of this team, and he helps the power play and special teams and stuff like that. So without him, obviously they're not to their full potential. So obviously you want a guy in the lineup. But I do have to agree with what Sheldon Keefe said. Like time off will benefit him, even if they're taking a little extra time to make sure he's okay. Because he has been playing a lot and he plays pretty much every game every season, right? So he's been putting in good work for as much as, some of the fan base rags on him. So he could use some of the time off. It's just the way the whole injury thing happened was very odd. Like he could have just shot the puck when he got injured. If anyone saw the play, he could have just shot the puck and scored, and maybe you avoid that injury. But anyway, stuff happens and you get injured. But the one thing that's kind of concerning to me is now this quote from Sheldon Keefe the last couple of days. He's day to day away from being day to day. What does that mean? What does that mean, right? Like you just say week to week, or maybe he's back in a month. You could say he's day to day from being day to day every day, right? You could just continue to say that. I don't know what that means. And now he's saying that obviously the injury isn't progressing as they would have liked. This seemed like a day to day thing when it first happened. That was already 2 weeks ago. And now, you're heading into, he's probably going to be out a month. Does he come back sometime in April? Like March is almost wrapping up here. It's going to be interesting to keep tabs on it. I hope he's back sooner than later. But if they are just being, precautionary with it, keeping him out an extra amount of time, and they are seeing that he's going to progress and be back soon, I think that's okay. It's just the mixed messaging where he's day to day away from being day to day. I don't know what that means, and I wish they would just say, hey, he'll be back in 2 to 3 weeks, or expected back in that time frame. But obviously, things are not going the way they thought they would with his injury. So that's a little bit scary because they're going to need him in the playoffs. Hopefully this doesn't linger too long or affect the rest of his season. Even if he does come back and he's, cleared and he's healthy, will it affect his season? Because like we've seen before with different players, it affects their season.
Yeah, and he's going to be probably a couple weeks at the very least away. And again, ankle sprains. We said it when the injury first happened. It's kind of not great. It's hard to bounce back from those. And one other one, I don't have the screenshot for it, but Darius just said to me, the Jarnkrok injury, He's looking like he's going to be back in April at the earliest, I believe, was the report, something to do with his finger. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? It's, again, these injuries just what seem to be fairly minor and half minor are turning into lingering things for the Leafs.
Yeah, I think I don't know. When I look back at last year, Ryan O'Reilly got hurt before the playoffs and he was back for the playoffs. So if you're going to get hurt, this is a decent time to do it. Don't do it like right into the playoffs, right? Obviously, O'Reilly, I don't think was the same after that injury, and we'll see what Jarnkrok does when he comes back. But, in terms of, for the player, I feel bad for Jarnkrok. He's, put together a pretty good season here and always really does. So hopefully he comes back with nothing really holding him back. But of course, they haven't said if it's a broken hand or anything like that. It's just a hand injury, which is good. At least it wasn't the neck or shoulder, and he was out longer term. So he'll be back maybe in a week or two. And then Lyubushkin's out with an illness too. So not really an injury, but he'll be out. He probably won't play tonight. I'll have a post-game video, so we'll cover all that. Hopefully he'll be back against the Washington Capitals. We'll see how that plays out the rest of the week. But yeah, they're missing a couple of guys right now, and they're going to have to figure it out. It's in the room. They have to figure it out. It's there.
Yeah, and Samsonov gets to start tonight. So that'll be fun to watch. But that'll wrap up the video. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and we'll see you later today.